illegal mining, you deal with criminals. So what they feed you, you cannot always just take for granted and go on that. So you need to first establish what the true situation is before you start working. And then you need to strategize how you're going to deal with it, because by just sending your guys in there, the likelihood is good that your guys might be abducted, kept for ransom, and there might be other things coming to play.
In deep-level operations, every mine rescue decision carries extraordinary risk, and innovation is often born from the hardest lessons. The Buffelsfontein incident brought those realities into sharp focus, drawing national and international attention to the limits of existing rescue capability and to the tech and leadership required when there is no margin for error. Today, we examine a case study in extreme mine rescue with Mannas Fourie. Mannas, thank you so much for your time. You have been in the industry for over 3 decades, if I'm not mistaken. Take me through how the nature of mine rescue has evolved over time.
Absolutely. We need to be dynamic as an organization. Mining has changed, technology has changed, methodology has changed. So we need to adapt accordingly. And if I need to think about it, there's a huge growth in technology and equipment that makes it so much easier and safer for us to operate in. And if you look at mining technology that's out there, you need to make sure that you're on top of your game all the time, staying with the mining industry and making sure that we have the right stuff if something goes wrong to go and save people.
Yeah, I mentioned in my opening intro that the Buffelsfontein incident captured both local and international attention. From your experience, how fundamentally different was that particular situation versus other mine rescue operations we've seen in the past?
I think this was quite complicated if you look at the magnitude of people that was involved. We're looking at 324 people, of which there were 78 deceased at the time. So it was a major, almost disaster for us as a country to sit with something like that. It reached international level because of the complexity, the depth that it happened at, and the circumstances around it. It's illegal mining, which is a huge problem for us in the country. And at that depth of 1,289 meters, you need to have the right equipment and skill and knowledge to go and take them out. And fortunately, we have foreseen that in future, we might need something like that in our mining industry. And yes, we had the equipment and we could respond to go and take them out.
Let's talk about that technology, because you've got the mobile rescue winder, and it's been described, as I read here, a revolutionary technology. What was the problem that this particular technology was trying to solve? And I suppose with the same way, let's look at the vision that it has translated to now.
Yes, we identified that we're having deep shafts in South Africa. If you look at the top 10 deepest mines in the world, I think most of them are sitting in South Africa. I think 6 or 7 of them is here. And that brings its own complexity. We have aging mines, aging infrastructure. Our shafts are deep. Some mines goes down 3 kilometers in single drop, not having a sub-shaft, tertiary shaft, just the main shaft is 3,000 meters. So if something should go wrong, of which we had incidents in the past in South Africa, what are we going to apply to go and serve the mining industry? This winder was then developed, designed, and built in South Africa by South Africans, and it's the first in the world. And it's also the first time that such a machine has been used in the world to take out people or rescue people. So should there be an incident in the mining industry, we are capable in South Africa to go down with this mechanism to go and either rehabilitate the shaft to get the permanent winders back in place, or to take the people and evacuate them immediately from the source of danger of which they are exposed to.
Sounds like a very interesting technology. In terms of it being used in SA, which we understand why, because it can go to those kind of depths. Since it's been used, have you seen other interests from other regions, other companies wanting to understand how it works and perhaps use it?
Absolutely. We had a huge interest from Botswana, of which we assisted to build a similar winder like that for them, with a depth capability of 1,500 meters. We tested it in South Africa, we trained them in South Africa, and we sent it abroad. So that was one of the success stories that came out of the build from ours. I've also seen quite recently Australia is busy building a winder similar, of which has not yet been used successfully. And then I've also seen one in Poland. And then in South Africa, we also have a smaller version of that's serving our coal mine industry, which is quite interesting. This one, which we used in this instance, is an electrical driven machine, And the one that we do have in our Evander region serving the coal mines is a hydraulic version that goes down 1,000 meters. The only difference is that the one can take 6 persons, which we used, and the one in Evander takes 1 person at a time, and it's a rescue capsule, similar than what was being used in the Chile rescue, of which we had an influence to give some technology from our side to develop and build and design the capsule they used.
When it comes to the technical risks, what are some of those risks that are involved, especially when you are deploying a winder in such live emergency conditions?
The problem is communication, view, and then also the area which you work in. With this instance which we had, it's an old abandoned shaft. Infrastructure has been damaged and thrown down the shaft and scraped away. We were not sure what was the integrity around the shaft barrel, if it would last and uphold the weight of the truck. The truck is weighing 45 tons, and if that structure had to be damaged, it would have been more complex for us. So you always have these technical hazards and risks that comes with deploying that winder, and every site is different. There's not a silver bullet for every single mine. If you get on site, you need to think on your feet and you need to adapt accordingly.
When you think about the Buffelsfontein incident, there's public scrutiny, you racing against time, and also you having to deal with human lives. Take me through some of the high-stake decisions that you had to make, or the team has to make, where there seems to be no margin for error in those situations.
Yes, look, there's always critical comment coming towards illegal mining and why we get involved and deal with it. But our focus is that we need to save lives. We do not get involved with all the other peripheral parameters that comes with it. We leave that. There are departments that deal with it. So the critical decisions we need to make is that our rescue team members are safe. If we enter into something like this, we first need to analyze and make sure that we have enough information of what we deal with. Illegal mining, you deal with criminals. So what they feed you, you cannot always just take for granted and go on that. So you need to first establish what the true situation is before you start working. And then you need to strategize how you're going to deal with it. Because by just sending your guys in there, the likelihood is good that your guys might be abducted, kept for ransom, and there might be other things coming to play. So I think the strategy around how you're going to take it and how you're going to deal with it, that's most probably one of the difficult things you need to get over your mind.
Let's go back to that situation. When you think back on it, what would you say were some of the leadership lessons that you learned there when it comes to managing teams in such an emotionally and operationally intense environment?
I think one of the biggest ones was to say that you need to allow the guys to do what they are trained to do. The guys that we use, they're highly skilled. We spend a lot of time preparing them for something should this happen in South Africa or in any other mine. And at that stage, when we were standing there, the guys came together and they said, we're not going to leave you until today we take 100 people out. So they took the ownership. And what I've seen then is just that us as leaders need to bring out the best out of our employees and people working for us and give them the framework to put their minds and thoughts forward and not just always instruct and guide them in what they need to do. So it was nice for the team to take ownership, and that made it a successful story for us.
With rescue operations, there's always this difficult question or questions that come around recovery versus actual rescue and what decisions to make when, especially at a time where you've got families, you've got regulators, and also operators having differing views. How do you manage that situation?
We see every situation as a rescue situation, but you also need to be clear in mind that at one stage, or with the knowledge and experience you have over the 100 years of existence as mines rescue, we can see and we can judge when it's going to become to a recovery. And even if it's a recovery, you still want to give closure to a family of which would like to get the remains back. So it's a difficult situation, but we try to do that as well. But we do take a more cautionary approach should it be a recovery situation. If it's a rescue, we go flat out and we make sure that we get that person out as quick as possible. But if we can establish it's a recovery, then we take a more cautionary approach to the risks that we do take.
I was reading up a little bit about you. You serve on the International Mines Rescue Body. And I'm curious here, when it comes to collaboration, which has been the big theme, at least when we've had other interviews for MITV, the word collaboration partnerships is quite prominent. How does global cooperation influence preparedness for extreme events like Buffelsfontein?
It's extremely important, and I'm glad that I'm serving on that board because it gives us as a country, South Africa, the view of what's happening in the rest of the world. Every second year we get together, we've got a huge conference, and it's been growing every time. We were fortunate to have it about a couple of years, 4 years back in South Africa, and it was highly attended by the international delegation. And it's a platform where all the countries share knowledge and experience and technology. And a lot of the stuff that we use in South Africa was brought back from these platforms. And likewise, a lot of the stuff that we do, which I have shared, was used in other parts of the world. I mean, we just took an approach quite recently, since 2017, that we expand into international base and also up into Africa. And there's success stories of which we have assisted our SADC countries in putting up mines rescue on site, having the knowledge and expertise and equipment and resources available to do so.
When it comes to these platforms, as you interact, whether it's every few months or, you converse with other peers in the industry, what's the big discussion point or the biggest focus right now as the body?
Efficiency and the safety of rescue team members. I think it's one of the most critical points is to make sure that as far as possible we can keep our guys safe. Sadly and unfortunately in South Africa over the last years or over the duration of Mines Rescue Services existence, we lost 41 of our rescue team members, which was sad for us. So there isn't a knowledgeable book or literature or person that can teach you how Mines Rescue Services work. The knowledge that we do have comes over the years. And that is what we share on these platforms to make sure that we're more efficient and more safe whenever we respond.
Speaking of knowledge, what can other jurisdictions learn from South Africa's experience, especially when it comes to deep-level rescue operations?
A lot because of the complexity of our mining. Our miners and our rescue team members are trained in a different level than what the rest of the world is being trained. If I have to compare to what other countries are doing and how they train their rescue team members, I need to stand for that South Africa Mines Rescue Services rescue team members are trained to the next level. And it's not purely because we think we could and how we train them, but we need to train them for what conditions they will be exposed to when they go underground. With our mines, we're sitting with huge seismicity, we're sitting with heat, and when there's fires underground, there's seismicity increase and also the heat increase even more. So the complexities are completely different than what the other people in the world bear with.
Mannas, thank you so much for your time. For more mining insights, you can go to miningindaba.com.